When I got sick and needed surgery, my husband's mother called and asked, "Do you really need the procedure, or are you just tired of housework?" I played her message on speaker. My husband said, "She's just worried about you in her own way." So I recovered at my sister's house instead, and when she called to visit, I told her the hospital lost her visitor pass. Permanently. I'm 36. Married for 8 years. No kids. We live in a small house just outside Springfield, Missouri. Kind of place where neighbors wave and everyone knows what car you drive. It's quiet, which I used to think I liked. I worked full-time at a small office downtown until last fall. Lost my job when they downsized. Derek, my husband, works as an HVAC tech. Solid money. Hard worker. I've always respected that about him. But when I got laid off, his mother, Teresa, made it her full-time hobby to remind me of my new role at home. Teresa never liked me. I knew that from the start. But she kept it under wraps in front of others. Her way of insulting you was to say something that sounded helpful, but left you feeling like garbage. "Oh, don't worry about cooking from scratch, honey. Some girls just aren't cut out for the kitchen. You've gained a little weight. But it's probably just stress, right? Derek likes his shirts folded a certain way. I used to do them for him when he lived at home. Maybe I can show you." I smiled through it for years. Thought I was being the bigger person. I'd vent to my sister, Kim, sometimes. But mostly I just took it. For Derek's sake. I didn't want to be the wife who tried to cut him off from his family. But this past winter, things changed. It started with stomach pain. Nothing sharp, just a dull ache that came and went. I thought it might be stress. Or maybe diet. I was eating at odd hours, skipping meals some days. Then the cramps got worse. Sharp, like stabbing from the inside. One night, I collapsed in the kitchen. Derek drove me to the ER. I couldn't walk without help. They ran tests. Turns out I had ovarian cysts. One had already ruptured. Another was the size of a small lemon. The doctor said if I didn't get surgery soon, it could burst too and lead to internal bleeding. They scheduled laparoscopic surgery. Nothing cosmetic. Nothing optional. Necessary. Urgent. I was scared. I've never had surgery before. Derek held my hand and told me everything would be okay. He stayed the night in the chair beside my bed. I thought maybe this was the moment we'd turn a corner. That he'd step up. That his mom might finally stay out of it. Then came the voicemail. It was the next morning. I had just come out of a groggy nap. Derek had gone home to shower. My phone buzzed. It was a voicemail from Teresa. She hadn't even sent a text first. I played it, lying there in that hospital bed. "Hi, sweetheart. Just calling to check in. I heard you're having some sort of procedure? Just wanted to ask if you really need it, or are you just tired of doing housework and figured this would be a nice little break? You know how doctors like to overdo things these days. Derek works so hard, and he's probably worried sick. Anyway, hope you're enjoying the attention. Get well soon." My mouth literally fell open. I played it again. Slower this time, to make sure I wasn't hallucinating from the pain meds. Nope. That's exactly what she said. When Derek came back later that evening, I didn't say anything at first. Just handed him my phone. "Play it," I said. Out loud. He listened. Didn't flinch. When it ended, he handed the phone back to me and shrugged. "She's just worried about you. In her own way." I sat there, stunned. Worried? She accused me of faking surgery to avoid chores. He sighed. "You know how she is." "Yeah," I said quietly. "Now I really do." That night, I changed my emergency contact info to my sister, Kim. I asked the nurse if she could help me update my records. She said no problem. I didn't tell Derek. After surgery, when they discharged me, I had Kim pick me up. I had told her everything. She brought a blanket and hot tea and helped me into her car like I was made of glass. Derek was texting me, asking when to pick me up. I didn't reply. I sent him one message later, I'm going to recover at Kim's. I don't want to be around people who think I faked this. He didn't answer for a whole day. Then just sent, I didn't mean it that way. You're overreacting. Teresa called the hospital the next morning. Wanted to visit. Said she was family. I told the nurses, I don't want that woman near me. I don't want her voice, her perfume, or her judgment anywhere near this room. They marked her as no visitor allowed. When she called back later, the nurse told her the hospital couldn't locate her visitor badge. We think it's lost, she said sweetly. Permanently. I could have cried from joy. She tried to visit me again 2 days later. Showed up with a fruit basket. Got stopped in the lobby. I heard she yelled at a security guard, saying, I'm the mother-in-law. Didn't matter. She called me from the parking lot. I didn't pick up. Derek called later and asked if we could talk things through. I told him I needed space. He showed up at Kim's place 3 days later, holding soup. Like that would fix things. Can we talk? He asked. She didn't mean it like that. She's from a different time. I don't care what time she's from. She talked down to me while I was on a hospital bed. And you let her. You're blowing this up, he said. It's family. Families fight. No, I said. Families protect each other. What you're defending. That's not love. That's manipulation. He walked out. That night, I emailed a divorce lawyer. Kim let me stay in her guest room as long as I needed. She didn't ask too many questions. Just brought me tea, helped me bathe those first few days, and kept Teresa's name out of her mouth unless I brought it up. 3 days after Derek walked out, I got a text from him. We should talk. Things are getting out of hand. My mom's upset. She didn't sleep last night. That was the whole message. Nothing about how I was sleeping. Nothing about the pain I was still in. Just that his mother had a rough night, as if she'd been the one cut open. I didn't reply. A week later, I got a notification from our joint bank account. A $2,500 transfer. To Teresa S. No note. No heads up. I called the bank to ask if it had been flagged as fraud. They said no, my husband had authorized it himself. When I confronted Derek, he said, she needed help with her roof. It's leaking. So you took money out of our savings? While I'm healing from surgery. She's my mom, he said. She's always been there for me. I laughed. You mean when she was telling me I was faking my health problems to avoid chores? He snapped. You're blowing this all out of proportion. You've always been too sensitive about her. I had a cyst rupture inside me, I said. That's not sensitive. That's critical care. He just rolled his eyes. That same night, Kim found me sitting on the edge of the bed, shaking. She sat next to me and said, you have to do what's right for you. Don't let guilt stop you. And I didn't. I went to the lawyer the next day. We started the paperwork. I wanted a clean split, but I made one thing clear. I was going after my share of the savings, and I wanted to document the transfer to Teresa. Every penny. A week later, Teresa showed up at my sister's house. Uninvited. She knocked, then banged on the door, yelling my name. Kim was about to open it, but I stopped her. We stayed silent while Teresa kept yelling. You're tearing this family apart. Derek's heartbroken. You should be ashamed. Then she screamed, you'll regret this. You won't find another man like my son. Eventually, she left. But that wasn't the end of it. 3 days later, I got a letter from Derek's pastor. A handwritten letter, saying he was deeply disappointed to hear about our troubles and that a good wife honors not just her husband, but his family. I hadn't even told my own pastor yet. I called the church. Yep, Derek had asked him to reach out to me. Behind my back. So now I was being shamed by religious leaders, my own husband, and a mother-in-law who still hadn't said one word of apology. That's when I decided to dig deeper. I logged into our shared cloud drive. Derek never changed the password. That's when I found the folder marked Mom's House Reno. Inside? Receipts. Plans. Screenshots of texts. They'd been planning to give her $10,000. $10,000. While I was recovering in a guest room, they were getting ready to redo her damn kitchen. I printed everything, and I sent it straight to my lawyer. The day after I sent the files to my lawyer, Derek called. First time I'd heard his voice since he stormed out of Kim's. His tone was calm, almost too calm. "I think we should pause the legal stuff," he said. "This is getting ugly." I almost laughed. "It was ugly when your mother accused me of faking a surgery, Derek. She didn't mean it that way." "You keep saying that," I said. "And it keeps meaning nothing." There was a long silence. Then, like he was doing me a favor, he added, "Mom's willing to apologize." I blinked. "Really?" "Well, she says she's sorry you took it the wrong way." That was the final nail. "Tell her to write it in blood," I said, and hung up. I forwarded that call recording to my lawyer, too. 2 days later, my lawyer called me herself. "Hey, I need to let you know something. Your husband just filed a motion to freeze joint assets. He claims you're trying to drain the account out of spite." My stomach dropped. I hadn't touched the account. Not once. He was trying to play me as the unstable one. I sent her screenshots, bank statements, everything. Then, just to be safe, I went to the local branch in person and asked for a printed history of all account activity for the last 2 months. The teller, a woman about my age, looked at me with tight lips and said, "You may want to check the transfers again." He added another recipient last week. I scanned the page. $1,000. Sent to J. Patterson. I didn't recognize the name, but the last 4 digits of the account were familiar, because it was Kim's ex-boyfriend. The one Teresa always said was more ambitious than my brother-in-law, the guy who had borrowed money from Derek 3 years ago and never paid it back. Now Derek was funneling cash to him. I sent that to my lawyer too. That night, Kim sat down beside me and said, "He's getting desperate. And when people get desperate, they get sloppy." "I know," I whispered, "but it still hurts." She hugged me. "Then make sure the hurt counts for something." I stayed up that night. Couldn't sleep. My mind was buzzing. Around 2 a.m., I got curious. I logged into Derek's email. He never changed that password either. That's when I found it. An email thread between him and Teresa. Subject line, "Plan B if she won't come back." It was dated 4 days after I left the hospital. They talked about me staying with Kim, how it was a bad look, and made people wonder. Teresa had written, "We need to keep things quiet. If she makes this into a public drama, it could hurt Derek's job. Maybe tell her the church wants to mediate? Keep her in line." Then Derek replied, "She's too emotional right now." "I'll try guilt. If that doesn't work, we play legal." Play legal. Like it was a game. I took screenshots of every email, sent them straight to my lawyer. Then I logged out, shut the laptop, and sat there for a while, just breathing. The next morning, I filed an emergency motion, froze the rest of the joint funds, asked for a formal separation of finances. I also added a line to the paperwork, all funds gifted to Teresa or affiliates to be considered marital assets until final division. Derek showed up at Kim's again later that week. This time, I didn't open the door. He left a note instead. "We don't have to go through all this. Let's be adults. Come home." I took a photo of the note, then burned it in Kim's kitchen sink. That night, I sent an email to Derek. Subject line, "Home is wherever you're not." It took 6 more weeks to finalize the divorce. Derek didn't go down easy. He fought every step, tried to play the victim, told the court I had abandoned the marriage, said I was unstable and hostile toward his family. But the documents spoke louder than he ever could. The emails, the bank records, the messages from his mother, the voicemail that started it all. My lawyer laid them out one by one, each one like a nail in the coffin. Even the judge raised an eyebrow when she heard Teresa's message in court. "Is this the mother-in-law's voice?" he asked. My lawyer nodded. "Yes, Your Honor." He leaned back and sighed. "Noted. In the end, I was granted 65% of the marital assets. Derek had to pay back the money he'd sent to Jay, Patterson, and Teresa every cent. The judge said those weren't gifts, they were suspicious, unilateral transfers made during a time of marital breakdown. Teresa didn't take it well. Word got around that she'd mortgaged her car to cover the repayment Derek couldn't afford. Her kitchen remodel? Cancelled. The cabinets sat in boxes in her garage for months. As for Derek, he moved into his old room at Teresa's. That same twin bed he grew up in. Full circle. I stayed at Kim's until I found a small rental across town. Nothing fancy, but it was mine. Quiet. Peaceful. Clean. A few months after the dust settled, I ran into Derek at the grocery store. He looked older. Tired. Like the fight had aged him. He tried to smile. "Hey, you look good." I nodded. "I am." He hesitated. "I didn't expect it to end like this." "I did," I said. He looked down. "She misses you, you know. Your mom." I said. "I bet she misses my savings more." He didn't argue. We stood there in the frozen foods aisle for a moment. Strangers again. "You were right," he said finally. "About everything." I nodded. "I know." I walked away without looking back. I made my share of mistakes. I let that woman treat me like I was nothing for years. I ignored the red flags. I thought love would fix everything. It didn't. But I fixed myself. And in the end, that was more than enough.